That was like a primer. We're gonna jump over to the ResearchHub Foundation now, and I'm glad to have Riccardo here, who's the director at the ResearchHub Foundation, and he's gonna talk about reputation and rewards. Thank you very much for being here. There it is.
Hi everyone. So I'm Riccardo. Today I'll talk a bit about reputation, a bit about rewards, a bit about the problems in science, and I'll give you a product update, latest product update that we have at ResearchHub. So starting from the problems, we have several problems in science. Today I'm going to tackle mainly the publishing system. And so this graph basically shows some of the main problems that we're having. So I'll break it down really easily. The first one that you see in section A is basically as year passes, we're getting more and more retractions. So basically papers aren't getting published and then are getting taken back, which is obviously not good. Also, as year passes, we have the effect size that is shrinking, which is also not really good. We're having some really good correlation between the impact factor, which is basically the impact of a journal in the scientific space, and the likelihood, basically the overestimation of the likely true effect, which is like increasing. So we're overestimating more and more and more the likely true effect. And at the same time, we're seeing that as the impact factor of a journal grows, we're also seeing more retractions. So it is kind of clear that something is not working. And so that we're probably doing science, not in the best possible way. And so what can we do really? Well, we can do better. We can try to find a new set of incentives to make sure that we are not prioritizing publications, but we're prioritizing good reproducible science. So that's one thing that we could do. The second one is providing universal open access science to people so that we can advance more rapidly as a society. And lastly, we probably could save a bunch of billions in subscription cost, which is a really big cost on the publishing industry for authors all over the world. And so I think this is a good segue to introduce what we're doing at ResearchHub. ResearchHub is an open forum and also like a marketplace for researchers to share papers, collaborate, and request services on the platform. And so since we're literally creating a network of people on ResearchHub, what we needed to do at the beginning, which was in 2019 when the company was founded, we had to build an internal reputation system. And so this is what we're trying to do. We are trying to build a system that creating token incentives on the platform can potentially accelerate and create better science. So this is the reputation system I was talking to you about. This is the first version that we did. The idea is every action that you do on ResearchHub basically can increase and decrease your reputation. So that was only internal. You can upload papers, you can upvote and downvote as you do on Reddit, you can comment, you can get flagged and so on. So any of these actions can have a positive or negative effect on your reputation. And so as you can see here, the lifetime reputation of this researcher was increasing and decreasing based on their activity on the platform. But we found, as it normally happens with networks, that we found basically some problems. And the problems, I could probably summarize it as this. People were spamming because it was only an internal reputation system. So in order to increase their reputation, they were basically reading content and getting other people to upvote their content. They were impersonating other people because it was possible to do so because we didn't have any link to the external network, so the external factors in academia and credentials. And lastly, we've seen a lot of gamification. And so people were basically creating this upvoting rings where they were getting a bunch of people together in a room and upvoting each other. So based on this, we decided to create a new system because we realized that one had problems. And so we went live with just a couple weeks ago, with a new reputation system and a new reward system for the platform. The way it works now is we are getting all the expertise that you have in a traditional academic space. So we're plugging that into ResearchHub through OpenAlex, that is the database that we're basing our data on. We're bring in some of the key stats that you have in academia. So we know that citations and number of publications are not probably the best metrics, but it's still something that we're counting. But also we're including everything that happens on the platform. So the upvote, similarly to what happened in the previous version, but also the amounts that you found on ResearchHub. So as I said, on ResearchHub, we have a token system. So with RSC, you can fund science, you can fund it on the platform, you can tip other content and so on. So that's one thing we want to keep track of. And then we have introduced some achievements. So these badges that basically can tell other people how many peer reviews have you've posted on ResearchHub, how many studies you've funded, if the studies that you publish in academia are open access or closed access. So all of these are good metrics to basically create your own reputation on ResearchHub. This is how it would look like, for example, for me. So I'm a biomedical engineer. You see, I'm pulling, the system is pulling my reputation from my published papers. It's giving me some badges based on like how many papers I publish in open access. And obviously I've done some peer reviews on the platform. And so that's also another thing that it shows. But why is that important? Well, it is important because basically now with this system, you can rely on ResearchHub to signal the quality of specific researchers in specific fields. And the way you can do that by registering on ResearchHub, if you go and register and you want to claim your profile, what you need to do is verify your identity. So again, we had problems with impersonification. And so basically now we're asking to KYC in a way where you can, obviously match your profile with who you are. And then we want you to verify your works, so your papers, so that you can claim them later. And then you are going to get rewards for any activity they have done already in academia. So let me show you how that works. Let's say you're verifying on ResearchHub, you're uploading your papers. If we see that your paper is not open access, unfortunately that is not eligible for rewards, because again, we're trying to push as much as possible open access principles, open science principles. And so we're going to reward anything that helps us get to that point, to the universal open access of research. But then we're going to ask you, okay, let's say that you have a work that you've done. Are the data open? Because I've shown it before that basically science is getting less and less reproducible. Why? Because you need to get published in high impact factor journals. And so basically you're doing research really to get published rather than creating something that is reproducible. So we want to combat that. And that's why we're asking you for open data as a multiplier for your rewards. On top of that, another really good thing that you could do to basically do better research is pre-register your study. So instead of like starting a study, running the research, starting with an hypothesis, realizing that your hypothesis was not working and changing your initial hypothesis just to get it published, what you should do is pre-register your study. Tell us what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and then even if you get negative results, then you can publish them on ResearchHub. So that's another thing that we think is really pushing open science. And then once you do that, you see the rewards that they've accrued. So again, you never did anything on ResearchHub, you just been active in academia, you come on ResearchHub, you register, and there's a pot of RSC waiting for you if you've done anything in the open science space. What can you do then? You have ResearchCoin. What can I do with ResearchCoin? Well, as I said before, ResearchHub is a open forum for discussion, communication. There's a lot of interesting comments and conversation happening, but it's also a marketplace for people, for expertise. So let's say that you're a researcher, you have done your study during the day, you're really tired, you have a lot of data, you maybe want to have other people analyze the data for you because it's a bunch of data, you don't want to do it. Well, what you can do is you can set up a bounty, and that bounty will ask that it's basically a request for a service. Someone else could come in, analyze the data, provided that they have the right expertise to do so, and they're going to earn RSC for their work. So the initial version of the bounty was really simple. How many RSC you wanted to offer, what was the task, and that's it. Given that now we have a new reputation system, and we understand exactly what is the expertise of any person that is registered on ResearchHub and is verified, we can now target specific audiences. So let's say that you have a specific request for a specific field of expertise, you can now specify that, all thanks to the reputation system that we've just built. Other things that you can do is you can basically, again, request services via bounties. So we have done a partnership with Hippocrates where we basically launched, they were looking to do like a literature review. Their team didn't have like many scientists, and so they wanted to run this literature review through ResearchHub. And so what they did is they opened up a bounty for someone to come in and basically a team of couple people performing a literature review for them. So it took them 2 months and it got published in May on ResearchHub. Other things that you can do, as I said, you can fund science directly on ResearchHub. And so we have started a pilot program, I would say, of the funding feature back at the beginning of the year, where we are funding with 5K projects that are pre-registered. Because again, the only prerequisite for to get funded on ResearchHub is basically that you share a pre-registration on how you're going to do the work, how you're going to share the data, and what are the results that you're expecting. And so we've done a few collaborations with some BioDAOs. So with Athena DAO, for example, they got funded through our crowdfunding platform, and it works very similarly to a Kickstarter. And everything is done on ResearchHub up to a 5K cap. And then if you need more, basically the idea would be to redirect anyone that would like to get more funding to the specific BioDAOs. So it would be like top of the funnel funding to test an initial idea, and then if you need more funding, there's the other BioDAOs that are basically specific on the specific fields and expertise. Lastly, one thing that we've seen a pretty interesting success, I would say, is the peer reviews. So in the same way as you can create a bounty for someone to request a service, you can also create a bounty for someone to come in and leave a peer review. I don't know how many of you are aware of the peer review problem, but basically the peer reviewers, that are the people reviewing a manuscript for journals, they're not getting paid, and they're definitely not happy. And so we are trying to do something for that, and so we're paying peer reviewers $150 to come on ResearchHub, leave a peer review, and if that is of high quality, they're basically getting rewarded through our bounty system. And so this is how it will look like. We are sponsoring the initial set of bounties. And so you come on ResearchHub, you see a preprint that has a bounty on it, a peer review bounty on it. If you have the right set of skills to peer review that paper, you can come in, leave a peer review, and our editor team will assess the peer review. And if it's high quality, you'll get rewarded with a bounty. So this is where we're at. I think with incentives, with network design and so on, it's really an iterative process. We got inspiration from the community to build a V2. So the V1 lasted several years. We now in the V2, we know is not going to be perfect. People will try to game it again. We'll probably have to do something again to change the system. But the best way to do so is to include the community. So if you're interested, if you want to get involved in any possible way, that's the link to register on ResearchHub. That's the easiest way to follow us on Twitter. And if you want to get in touch directly with me, there's my email. And thank you all for the attention. I'll take any questions.
Do it now, register. Thank you. We've got time for one question. Jasmine?
Thanks. This is a super important project and initiative, to resolve. So I'm wondering, do you have any metrics to gauge, number one, whether or not something is really highly reproducible? And I guess the other part of it is any gaps in research, like being able to stimulate the collaborators to do new types of studies that we need to be doing to fill in the knowledge gaps, pretty much.
Yeah, so on the reproducible side, we're not actively working on reproducibility. The idea would be that all of the things that we're doing ideally should push reproducibility more. Because if we ask people to, for example, peer register the study that they want to get funded on ResearchHub, then it's a new study that will have a peer registration. There's not so many out there. And so we're not tackling reproducibility directly, but we're doing things that ideally would, as a byproduct, help with reproducibility. So that's kind of like what we're trying to do. And for the other things, like stimulating like some areas of research that are maybe like underworked, like what was that? Okay, yeah. So we were really open, like in terms of the community like spun up. There's a lot of biomedical sciences. I feel like that's something that we've seen a lot of in crypto. There's a lot of like interest between crypto and bio, and so there's a lot of bio talks on ResearchHub. There's a lot of AI, but literally anyone is free to talk about anything. We accept any kind of conversation as long as it's scientific.
Thank you, Riccardo.